Welcome into another edition of Locked On NFL Insider Report. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens, joined by our Locked On NFL Insider, Isaiah Stanback, here today. And of course, we got to be talking about Antonio Brown, his latest meltdown. If you haven't seen the footage, I highly recommend you go check it out because it's something you truly have to see. In the third quarter in Tampa Bay's game against the Jets, Antonio apparently didn't like that he wasn't getting the ball thrown his way. I'm not really sure what he freaked out about, but took off his uniform, threw his gloves in the stands, and left. Isaiah, what was your reaction to this?
It was one of those things that you hate to see, not only from the standpoint of a teammate and as a competitor, but also for him and where his career now lies. It's something that's very unfortunate. Obviously, he's had his ups and downs and during his career, all the way stemming back to his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And obviously, over the recent year, for the most part, he's been staying out of trouble. Obviously, he found himself in a little bit of a pickle with the vaccination card, and that was the only sign of trouble that he's had during his time in Tampa. But for whatever reason, that seemed to spark this latest spree of challenges for him, and now is seemingly his career is over.
And head coach Bruce Arians said as much, that he's no longer a Buccaneer at this point, considering some of the other things Antonio Brown has been accused of, charged with, dealt with over the years. Is his NFL career over?
I believe that it has to be. I think that the way in which he decided to handle himself today, and compounded with the issues that he's had over the recent years of his career, I think it has to be over at this point in time. I can't imagine another team that would take another risk on him. Not only are you risking the camaraderie of your team, but you're also risking the perception of your organization and your decision making if you decide to bring this gentleman onto your squad. It's very unfortunate the things that he's dealing with, whatever's going on with him at this point in time. I hope that he finds a help for that, and that he has the support that he needs. But in terms of his football career as well as his Hall of Fame career, I don't believe that it's going to go forward from this point forward.
Obviously, as erratic as his behavior looks to us, maybe as fans from the sideline, I mean, most of his teammates have always been very supportive of him. What is it like? Obviously, you didn't play with him, but to play with someone that's maybe, publicly very different than what you're dealing with on the field, is that like kind of a weird dynamic when you realize someone has some weird stuff going on, but they're also playing with you every day?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I haven't had the personal experience of dealing with anybody with the personality of Antonio Brown, but I can see the respect that his teammates have for him, and everything that I know about Antonio Brown, everything that I've seen from him in terms of his work ethic and his due diligence in terms of preparing himself for an NFL season is that of which you would want from the standard teammate. Actually, from above and beyond what you would consider to be a standard teammate. He prepares himself well. This is one of the best receivers to ever touch the field. I mean, this gentleman over the last since 2011 is leading the league in receiving yards and receiving catches. Over his career, he has over 821 yards receptions, 11,400 yards, 74 plus touchdowns. This is 7-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion. This is one of the best to ever do it. But at the same time, much like others we've seen in the form of like Josh Jacobs and things of that nature. And these guys have had off the field issues, and unfortunately, it's affecting his ability to contribute to his team effectively. And as you see today, it's something that he has to step away from the field and figure out for himself.
You mentioned this or touched on it a little bit earlier. I mean, obviously, his numbers wise, he's a Hall of Famer on that. If this is something where he can address his off the field issues going forward and some time is put in between this, is this something where we can look back and maybe just look at the numbers and kind of see how special he was? Or do you think that the damage is done at this point?
Unfortunately, I wish that was the case. I wish we could look past his off the field issues and just look purely at the numbers. But then, history has shown that it's hard for people to look away from that. If you can look at how hard it was for Terrell Owens to get in the Hall of Fame simply because of the fact that people disliked how he went about handling the media. Now you look at somebody who's actually had some off the field issues at every stop of the way. You go all the way back to Pittsburgh and how he had a disgruntled departure from there. Then you go into his time with the New England Patriots. You go to his time with the Raiders. Everywhere he's gone, it's been a disruption, and that's very unfortunate in terms of a player of this caliber to have these off-field issues that are affecting not only his character but also affecting his ability to be recognized as one of the greatest to ever do it.
Unfortunately, it looks like the last we'll see of him on an NFL football field, but of course, we'll keep our eyes out because I'm sure he'll be up to something, unfortunately, but we'll have to see what that is exactly. That's it for us today. I'm Kainani Stevens. That's Isaiah Stanback. Thank you for joining us on Locked On NFL.